Have you ever woken up after the worst chapter of your life ended and felt an eerie silence instead of relief? Instead of chaos, instead of noise, there is just a quiet morning staring back at you, asking one simple question. What now? That moment, the morning after rock bottom, is where most people get lost because they expect fireworks when life actually whispers. We are trained to believe that change feels dramatic, loud, and cinematic, but real change feels quiet, uncomfortable, and painfully ordinary. This is the hour where discipline must replace emotion, where clarity must replace confusion, and where the smallest decision quietly becomes the most powerful one. You may not feel strong, you may not feel motivated, and you may not even feel hopeful, but this morning is not asking for feelings. It is asking for movement. The first truth you must accept is simple and brutal. Momentum is built before motivation arrives. This is why the first day after rock bottom matters more than the comeback story itself. Most people wait to feel ready. But readiness is a myth that keeps people trapped in yesterday. You do not need readiness. You need direction. And direction begins with a decision so small, it almost feels laughable. Get out of bed with intention. Drink water like you are refilling a system that has been running on empty. Open the window and let light remind your nervous system that darkness is temporary. These actions seem insignificant, but they are signals to the brain that the story is still being written. Dr. Grandpa Henry often said that the human spirit does not collapse all at once. It fades when it stops moving. So the goal of this morning is not to rebuild your life. The goal is to prove to yourself that movement is still possible. Once movement exists, hope begins to breathe again. Hope does not arrive as a lightning strike. It arrives as a tiny spark hidden inside action. You are not rebuilding your entire future today. You are rebuilding the habit of forward motion, and forward motion, even at 1% speed, defeats the gravity of despair. This is why the morning after rock bottom is sacred. It is raw, honest, and free from illusion. There is no pressure to impress anyone. There is only the opportunity to start quietly. And quiet starts are the strongest starts because they do not depend on applause. They depend on choice. And right now, this morning, you still have the power to choose one step. One step is all the comeback ever begins with. Take that step before your doubts wake up and try to negotiate with your future. Take it before fear reminds you of yesterday. Take it while the morning is still quiet enough to hear your own courage breathing. We begin now, not because it is easy, but because waiting has already cost enough. This is the first promise you keep to yourself today. No excuses remain. But here's the part nobody warns you about. The second half of the morning is where resistance wakes up. The first burst of movement feels noble, almost heroic, and then the mind begins its quiet rebellion. It whispers that one day of effort changes nothing. It reminds you of every time you tried before and slipped backward. It suggests that comfort would be safer than progress, and that postponing action would feel merciful. This is the suspenseful moment most comebacks never survive, because nothing dramatic happens on the outside while everything dramatic happens inside your head. You stand between two invisible doors, one labeled familiar pain and the other labeled unfamiliar effort. And the terrifying truth is that both doors look exhausting. The human brain prefers known discomfort over unknown possibility, so it pulls you gently toward the old patterns that once felt predictable. This is the hour when scrolling becomes tempting, when distractions look harmless, and when the promise of starting tomorrow sounds logical. Tomorrow becomes a seductive lie dressed as patience. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the negotiation beginning, the quiet deal your mind tries to make with your future. Just rest today, it says, and you can start strong next week. But this negotiation hides a dangerous secret. Delay is the most polite form of quitting. No alarms ring when you postpone growth. No one sends warnings when you trade progress for comfort. The world keeps spinning, and that silence can trick you into believing the delay has no cost. Yet every hour you surrender quietly strengthens the gravity pulling you backward. This is where courage becomes uncomfortable. Because courage is not a loud speech or a dramatic leap. Courage is choosing to continue when continuing feels painfully ordinary. You might feel tired already, confused already, uncertain already, and that is exactly why this hour matters more than the first. Anyone can start when energy is fresh and emotions are loud. Few continue when the excitement fades and the work becomes repetitive. The comeback is not built on the first step. It is built on the second step that happens after doubt arrives. So you do something simple again. You clean one corner of your space. You write one honest sentence in a notebook. You take one short walk without your phone. These actions feel small enough to dismiss, yet powerful enough to interrupt the old story. The suspense dissolves slowly when action repeats itself. Each tiny decision becomes proof that the new direction is real, not imagined. Momentum begins to form quietly, like a wheel that finally remembers how to turn. You may still feel unsure, but uncertainty loses power when movement refuses to stop. This is the moment you realize the morning is no longer empty. It is filled with evidence that change has begun. And in that quiet proof, the future stops feeling distant and starts feeling possible, even if the path ahead still feels uncertain and long today again. By the time the day begins to stretch toward afternoon, something subtle but powerful has already changed inside you. The morning that once felt heavy and uncertain now carries quiet evidence that movement is real. You have not solved everything, and you were never supposed to. The goal was never perfection. The goal was proof. Proof that action is possible even when confidence is missing. Proof that momentum can exist before clarity appears. This is the hidden secret of rebuilding a life. Clarity is the reward of movement, not the requirement for it. So many people wait until they feel certain, but certainty is a luxury reserved for those who kept walking through uncertainty long enough. This is the moment where gratitude begins to sneak into the room, not as a loud celebration, but as a gentle shift in perspective. You start to realize that surviving rock bottom gave you something unexpected: simplicity. When everything collapses, life removes the noise and leaves only the essentials. Breathe. Move. Try again. These basic actions sound almost too simple to matter, yet they form the foundation of every powerful comeback story ever told. Dr. Grandpa Henry believed that resilience is not a rare talent, but a daily habit practiced quietly when nobody is watching. You are practicing that habit right now, even if it still feels fragile. Fragile beginnings are not weak beginnings. They are honest beginnings, and honesty builds stronger foundations than false confidence ever could. The pressure to become a completely new person overnight fades as you understand a deeper truth. You do not need a new identity. You need consistent actions. Identity slowly reshapes itself around repeated behavior. Each small step you take becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. With every simple action, the distance between who you were yesterday and who you are becoming tomorrow begins to grow. You may not notice the change today or even this week, but momentum compounds quietly like interest in an invisible account. One day you wake up and realize the heaviness has lifted just enough to breathe deeper. Another day, you notice that tasks once avoided now feel manageable. Weeks later, you catch yourself smiling without forcing it. This is how transformation actually unfolds, not as a dramatic explosion, but as a steady sunrise replacing the night. The morning after rock bottom was never meant to fix your life in a single day. It was meant to prove that your story is still moving forward, and forward is the only direction that matters now. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.